Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeffrey Peralta. I am the Canon for Mission Communications and Media here at the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. And today I am joined by the Most Reverend Michael Bruce Curry, who is the Presiding Bishop of the Episcopal Church, and Bishop-elect Jeff Mello, who is the Bishop-elect of the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. Thank you so much for being here with us today, gentlemen.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
So I have a couple questions for you guys here. As you know, we're here for the man of the hour. Jeff here is going to be consecrated as the Bishop of Connecticut tomorrow, October 15th, at the Connecticut Convention Center. Bishop Curry, you are going to be the chief consecrator at the consecration. Can you tell us a little bit about your role Saturday? What does one do when they are chief consecrator at a consecration?
Well, and thank you for having me. This is a real privilege to be able to be here for Bishop-elect Jeff's consecration, and to be with my friend Bishop Douglas and Bishop Aarons and the good people of the Episcopal Church in Connecticut. It's just good to be back. Well, I tell you, the chief consecrator, it takes 3 bishops to make another bishop. And you need the 3 bishops and the Holy Spirit, and then you pretty much got it. Chief consecrator is just the one who guides it, that's all. So I'll be there with the other co-consecrating bishops who they'll see us sitting up. I haven't seen the arrangement, but sitting up on the stage or near the altar. And then there will be all the attending bishops who will be there, and all of us together will lay on hands and pray the Holy Spirit to make Jeff a bishop in your church. Pour out your spirit. In fact, the words are pour out your princely spirit on him and make him a bishop in your church. And we do that, and all of the people of God together, and just call on the Spirit to help him to be the bishop who's needed for the church here in this time in which we live. And the chief consecrator is just the one who leads the ceremony. Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Jeff, so this past May, you were officially elected by the people of Connecticut as our bishop, and now tomorrow you will be going through this special ceremony. How did it feel when you first heard that it was you who was elected in May, and how are you feeling today, knowing that tomorrow is when you will be getting hands laid upon you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a lot about longing in my relationship with God as this constant state of just asking God over and over again, where do you need me now? Where do you need me now? How are you shaping me? How are you forming me? Where do I need to stretch? And so that day in May, which was an amazing day and a long day, where the Holy Spirit was present and vibrant and working, and there was this moment where I thought, I wonder if it's going to happen. And then there was the moment of, oh my gosh, this could happen. And then you get phone calls all day from your shepherd when a member of the diocese was calling to let you know how the vote goes. So my phone would keep ringing, and I'd see the name of my shepherd, and I'd see the name of my shepherd, and I'd say, okay. And then my phone rang, and it was Bishop Ian Douglas, the Bishop Diocesan here. And I thought, oh my gosh, it just happened. And there was just this moment of feeling incredibly grateful to the Holy Spirit and to the people of the Episcopal Church in Connecticut, but also rightness. Right? It felt like this is overwhelming and terrifying and feels right, all at the same time. Since that day, it's been a season of saying goodbye to my community in Brookline, where I was serving, moving, buying a house, getting settled. And so this past week, I've had this really interesting experience where I've wanted things to hurry up. Like, let's get there, let's do this already, right? We've all been waiting so long. And also wanting everything to slow down so that I could really pay attention and be present in each moment. And so today I'm just treasuring each moment as it goes, not necessarily as a rush through to tomorrow, although I'm terribly excited for tomorrow morning, but each moment of today and tomorrow is I hope, beautiful and sacred and of God. along the way. I'm excited. I'm excited. And I'm so grateful that you're here.
I'm so glad to be here. We're so excited.
Bishop Curry, I imagine you see all kinds of different emotions as you are in this process with new bishop-elects. How would you say Jeff's temperament has been compared to what you've seen since you've been presiding bishop?
Oh, he's the best of the best. Oh, absolutely. I mean, oh yeah, I sent the checks in the mail. You know, what I really treasure is that we got to spend a little bit of time together at the Lambeth conference because he was elected, and once you have the consents in from the other bishops and standing committees, you're pretty much ready to go. And so I guess, would you have a lot of weeks notice that, you're now eligible to go to the Lambeth conference? And so, which was a real blessing because you got to meet and know other bishops too. And we got to have a couple of conversations, and I really treasured that. And listening to him, I have to tell you, just listening to him, I said, oh, I see. Now I see why they elected him. You know, and each of us who serve as bishops or in any kind of capacity, I think, in the church, but where the people come together to elect, but there's a spirit going on too. And we're each called for a particular moment and a particular season, and we're meant for that season. And someone else will be meant for the next season, and that's I think that's part of what apostolic succession is really about, that we're called in for a particular moment and season. And listening to him, I said, oh, this brother's been called for this moment and this season. Could really, like the old folks, used to be a spiritual, I know the Lord done laid his hands on you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that's great, because that actually runs into my next question. Bishop Curry could see, okay, I understand why they picked him. But I'm wondering, when you heard that Connecticut was looking for a new bishop and you looked through what we were looking for, what spoke to you that made you decide they may be it?
Yeah. So much spoke to me. It takes a lot. It would take a lot to put your name in to be considered for bishop. It's no small thing, right? So you really have to make sure that this is what you think God is up to in your life and in the diocese to which you feel like you are being called. So I needed some sense that I would be good for ECCT and that ECCT would be good for me. I had a mentor remind me, God calls us where we go for our own transformation and salvation as much as for anybody else's, right? So there's something that God is up to in me in bringing me here, something I need to learn and understand. And that's what I saw in the profile. There were two things that stick out when you asked that question, Jazri. One was this great phrase. Now, here I am, a New Englander, a New England Episcopalian, born and raised in Rhode Island, lived in Boston for 30 years, looking at a profile from Connecticut. And in the profile, it says that we are looking for someone to help us unleash our passion for Jesus Christ.
Now that's preaching, you talking my language.
And I thought, done.
We can do this.
Right. If they can put unleash our passion for Jesus Christ in the profile, I want a part of that. I want a part of what that looks like in this part of this part of the world. And the other was toward the end of the profile, it had some language about if you see yourself as the next bishop, or becoming or growing into being the next bishop. And that was the other thing.
That's nice.
And I thought, they get it. They get that whoever gets this, whoever God calls to be the next bishop of ECCT is not going to arrive fully formed.
Right.
And that we are going to be in relationship forming each other. So it was really, and of course all the work that was front and center as commitments of, the work around racial justice and reconciliation, the hard work that this diocese has done around looking at the future of the church and having to reimagine how we are. All of that work is out there, and I didn't imagine that I was going to have to introduce any of that as a new idea, but to build on it and to help move it to the next place. That was really exciting. But that first phrase around unleash our passion for Jesus Christ, I sort of took it and looked at the front. I was like, yep, this is Connecticut, this is New England, right? We're good.
Unleash.
We're good. Unleash.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. So I was going to ask about what you were most excited about, but I think you kind of just answered that there. I did have a question about your past vocation as a clinical social worker, and I was wondering if that comes to use for you at all in your current ministry, and if so, how do you see those skills and talents coming through?
So I don't know if I got my master's in social work, and I was a clinical social worker, and I worked in a number of different contexts. I worked at a social service agency for at-risk youth, but spent most of my time in the psychiatry department at Mass General Hospital in Boston. And in parish ministry, I would say, I don't know how anybody does this work without an MSW. I used my MSW every day. And one of the great things about a social work degree is you are trained to see people in a 360-degree experience, right? That they're not just whatever the presenting diagnosis is, but they have a familial context, they have a community context, they have an institutional context, they have a cultural context. They exist in all of those realms. So before you start telling somebody what they need, right, or what they have to do, you see them as the expert in the story of their own life, and then walk with them in sort of understanding that. And I think that that's the same thing we try to do as priests and bishops, is see individuals and communities not just as whatever they've been told to believe about who they are or how they might understand themselves, but to really look at the 360 with God as an extra view on that. Who are they as an individual, family, all of those things, but then who are they as a child of God? So for me, I feel incredibly blessed to have had that training that helps me sort of with the lenses that I'm able to use in the work.
So Bishop Curry, I had a question for you. As you think back to your own consecration, what advice would you give Jeff? I want you to give him 2 pieces of advice, and one of them specifically for tomorrow. What comes to your mind with the ones that you've been a part of and your own? And then what piece of advice would you give Jeff in general as he starts his new ministry as a bishop?
Well, I was ordained bishop 22 years ago, so it was a long time ago. I've probably forgotten more than I remember back then. But, I mean, for tomorrow and tonight, today, tomorrow, and all of these days, just live into them and cherish them. Just sort of go with the flow. Just go with the flow. And let the rest of us worry about everything else. You know what I mean? The chief consecrator does the worrying during the service. That's the real role. Yeah. That's right. Are the microphones working? Is something else going? Is something else happening? That's just go with the flow. Just be there. And let God and the people bless you. And I have to admit, and I think you come to this with more of a depth of maturity, I think, than I did. I mean, I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, I think that really, because one of the things that I was aware of was the difference between people's expectations of me and me. And now, the expectations were that I knew how to be a bishop. And that's fine. It's okay. I understand that. But none of us do.
Right, exactly.
I mean, this is something completely new. It has relationships between, a bishop is not a priest writ large.
Right.
Not even a priest of a complex parish or something like that. It's just a different vocation.
Yes.
It's of the same spirit, but it's a different vocation. And so it's okay to know that you don't know. And it's okay to know that you bring some gifts, your innate wisdom, your gut sense, your gut's smart. Your wisdom in listening and learning from the community, it's okay. I mean, when Jesus said, wherever 2 or 3 gather together in my name, I'm gonna show up. So let the 2 or 3 gather. And when the bishop's in the room, I don't have to answer all the questions. Let's hear from I remember Frank Griswold, who was the presiding bishop some years ago, used to speak to us as the House of Bishops as a community of wisdom. Well, that was very nice of him to say it about us. I'm not sure it was always true, but nonetheless. But that there is a sense, there is a community of wisdom that gathers. And the nice thing about our role as bishops, we don't have to be, you don't have to be the oracle of Delphi. You don't have to be sitting on the chair of Peter and infallible. You can just facilitate the conversation until the wisdom emerges, and you have some wisdom, clear wisdom to share, and it's okay. But people will instinctively defer to you and move to you, and sometimes that's okay. But a lot of times, guess what? Well, y'all, tell me more about what you're thinking. Let's get some wisdom in the room. Now, I do that sometimes because I'm stalling, trying to figure out what's going on. But anyway, but it's also a way of soliciting the wisdom in the room.
Yes.
And it's okay that the expectations of you, I don't know why I'm quoting Frank Griswold a lot right now for some reason, but Frank used to tell us, and I think he was right, that the more vestments and things you put on, the more you must release from within. And maybe I'll just stop right there. That's
great.
let it go and just be, because God called you and God will guide you. Let it be.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you both so much for being here today and giving us a little piece of your busy time. And I hope you do take Bishop Curry's, I think, great advice about just letting it happen. So.
We have a phrase at St. Paul's Brookline where we'd always just look at each other and say, you know what? God happens anyway. Right?
That part.
So if I could just hold on to that and trust that God will do what God needs to do to work out God's purposes, we'll be okay.
We'll be all right.
Right?
We'll be all right.
Thanks,
you, Jazzer.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Bishop Curry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop-elect Jeff. And thank you all for watching. Again, Saturday at 11 a.m., Bishop-elect Jeff will be ordained and consecrated a bishop. And Sunday, we'll have the seating of our new Bishop Diocesan right here in Christ Church Cathedral. So thank you all for watching.